Hey everybody, welcome back to the Black Urbanist Weekly. I'm Kristen Jeffers. We're going to talk about when to stay and when to go, and we're going to process the Supreme Court decision. But I'll be back in just a second after my lovely opening music. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the opening music. Once again, Kristen Jeffers. I am thrilled to have you here at Open Studio with Kristen Jeffers, the companion live stream to my newsletter, The Black Urbanist Weekly. If you haven't already, head over. If you're in LinkedIn right now, it's already there. I did the newsletter. It comes out on Mondays. This live stream comes out on Tuesdays. It gives me a chance to kind of process things, read your comments, think about things. Speaking of comments, if you have comments, if you are on LinkedIn and YouTube, I can see some of them. If you're on Twitter, you can retweet at me. You can tweet the at Black Urbanist to reach me. I may see some of those comments. I may not. But today, I was thinking about what I wanted to focus on. And if you read the newsletter, I did what's become the obligatory thing we do now when we deal with onslaught of riots, an onslaught of this is what we need to do. We're in an emergency situation. You know, what we did when COVID hit us. This was not completely unexpected in many states, and unfortunately for many people, especially people that have uteruses inside black and brown bodies in the United States of America and many other countries around the world, being able to have control over that body part and the body parts that relate to it, or really sometimes any body parts, is not something that's always been guaranteed. In fact, in my home state of North Carolina, after a long fight, it is no longer legal to forcefully sterilize someone who's disabled. That is not the case in a lot of other states. So there's so many other reproductive rights issues, civil rights issues. Many of us are rightfully worried that our marriages and partnerships, heck, even our relationships may be legalized. Now, some folks have said we're going all the way back to Brown versus Board. Honestly, residential segregation has kind of done that for us already. And so that's why I thought about focusing today on knowing when to stay and when to go. And so let me pull up here. I wanted to talk about specifically how I've made my personal decisions, because if you saw the opening credits, all those cities that you saw in the opening credits, I've lived in. I think I didn't put Raleigh in there, but it could have been. I might want to go back and add Raleigh to the opening credits, because that's the other, and Durham as well. I don't want to forget them. But basically, I kind of had my Greensboro years, my Kansas City years, my DC and Baltimore years, and then right now I'm technically in Prince George's County, Maryland, but still in Maryland. I guess I could just put up a random crab or national harbor, some sort of thing. But basically, on a more serious note, I'm going to share how I've made these decisions over the years to go where I'm going and do what I'm doing and live. And then I also wanted to share a framework that I've been looking at. I literally just found it. It's gotten more, this particular framework has gotten more popular throughout COVID, and it's been created by a woman of color. So I wanted to lift that up for you for an option, because here on this program with me, I am more focused on making sure folks have what they need. I've been shifting my life's work into a Black queer feminist urbanist framework. That's why the newsletter was called what it is. That's what I'm thinking about it as. And I want to make this clear that this isn't something that's just for Black birthing folks, feminists, queer folks. I'm a firm believer that some of the things, especially here in the United States and in some other countries, I know in Canada there may be a few more rights, but then there's grave injustice with the indigenous folks of those lands. There's grave injustice with a lot of folks who are indigenous to the lands that they live on globally. There's a lot of injustice for folks who have uteruses, whether or not they're feminine presenting or not, or even the people for rights of people to choose what their outer appearance looks like and who they have sexual and other relationships with. And so, yes, this is also a placemaking show. This is also a design show. This is also an art show. And all those things make a difference. I feel like if you're listening to me today and you're still listening to me today, you already knew that about me. You have chosen to allow me to be one of your guides, one of your leaders, one of your role models, as it were. Of course, I'm not a perfect person. I'm learning how to accept that about myself. I've not made all the right decisions around of ever, and I still think about that. I think about the tokenism that goes on in, at least in the urban design industry, which is kind of where I mostly hang out at. But then I have to remember, okay, sometimes I hang out at the journalist table, sometimes I hang out at the craft table with a yarn in hand. Sometimes I tell people what to do, so that's a whole. So basically, today I'm gonna spend the first half talking about how I decided to move around and how I've decided what the number one, really the number two, the two most important things I've used over the years to determine where I live, knowing that my civil rights have always been at question. It's, especially once I learned that the civil rights movement for a person in this body did not end in the 1960s. It only really started. And even then, we are still battling and affirming and deciding if some people get to have civil rights and some people do not. So, yeah, here we are, where we are at this point in time in the world. And I want you to maybe take this moment, if you haven't already, to continue your self-care practices. If you're in this position now where you need this kind of help and you are not in a place where it is actually legal, please do use a secure platform to send me a message. As of right now, there's some folks that are specifically within the design and the urban design, urbanism industry that are concerned about this. Don't be alarmed that you may have not seen certain official statements, and some of our companies haven't made those bold statements other companies have made about paying for access to healthcare in another state or whatever they've chosen to do. Likewise, that's your company probably also hasn't changed their logo. And it's interesting because we have these conversations over here all the time. We talk about making a world a better place. We talk about building better. We talk about building for all kinds of people. And specifically, we talk about building at all the intersections. And of course, I'm going to speak from my experience today. So yeah, let me get to how I make these decisions over the years. How, and specifically thinking about civil rights. And yes, one of the things, before I get into the two main reasons, I want to highlight that there was an article, and I cannot remember where I found it, but I remember finding it right after the 2016 U.S. presidential elections. And for many of us, it's started kind of a downward spiral of, okay, this could happen. Right at that time, yes, I was living in Kansas City, and I was already kind of disconnected from family and friends. And absolutely, it definitely expedited me not being there as long as I might have hoped or might have felt comfortable. But I'll get into, let's see, here we go. This is some of my slides got a little mixed up today, but bear with me. One of the things that I look for back then, actually I'm going to advance the slide. So when I was thinking about moving from North Carolina to Kansas City, and even when I moved within town, when I lived in North Carolina, the original number one guideline for me about where I was moving to and where I was living was economic stability and control over my activities. And that's everything. where being able to date and not have to worry about like vetting them against family members, or say if I needed the kind of healthcare that has been reduced right now in this country, like, or knowing that I could go to an OBGYN that was like competent in my body. Likewise, this has also come up again. It's really fluctuated between this reason, economic stability and control over my activities, and a concentration of queer friendly black folks and black cultural institutions, churches, um, cookouts, even like you go to the cookout and there's not all these weird jokes about I brought my friend when it's really my partner, or trying to think of another major black little many of you who are in the historically black Greek-led organizations. Now, of course, there are queer-friendly ones and ones that are founded by black queer people. So just, I wanted to see that. I wanted to see black bodies starving. I didn't want to have to be in a tokenizing position all the time. I didn't want to have to go to work or go to a church or go to even, it happens even in like a sangha or meditation or yoga spaces. Sometimes happens in nature groups a lot. We've seen this happen with the different nature groups and different controversies, everything from that Central Park incident where the black gay brother who's a birder, the names are escaping me right now, and that's why I'm not using them. I don't want to mess up anybody's name, especially not a person of color or a queer person's name. All of our names and pronouns are valuable. If you didn't learn that this month, please take that away from this month. And so these are the two things: being able to sustain myself economically and being able to see people, at least in my skin tone, as well as, and they don't have to be queer or trans, but I want to see them treat queer and trans people like myself well, like my partner well. Like when, it's a joy for me that she goes to work right now and that they treat her well and they actually like what she's doing. Likewise, those of you who continue to come back to this page and to this platform and you like that. And so I want to present that challenge to you right now. I was going to put all kinds of maps up here, as I've done already. I was going to put the links to the abortion funds and the material and the reproductive justice funds. I want to shout out a collective I'm a part of, Black Feminist Future, that has been working on. It's another example of this right here that's on the screen. It is a concentration. Now they're a virtual concentration, and they invite me, and I haven't had a chance to do my in-person marches with them. But I want y'all to know, if you're watching today, I am 100% happy to be in the collective. We've been tracking, one of the things as a collective we've been tracking is the status of Brittany Griner, who is detained in Russia, even though now the United States considers her wrongfully detained. She's going to be over there for a while. She is in the prison system. Getting back to abolition, like criminalizing the black body and how the black body chooses to conduct itself. And then I also want to address the folks who think that this is just, a distraction, or there's going to be something else happening, or the foot's going to drop, or we're not concerned. Let me go back to this slide again. I care just as much as you do about economic stability and economic liberation. But we cannot ignore, especially those of us who have roots on what is now the continent of Africa, especially sub-Saharan. Not that North Africa, there aren't the same things. There's really all over the world, there have been evidences of matrilineal civilizations. And unfortunately, some of them have lasted. Some of them have not lasted because people got jealous. We have had battles over genders and sexualities and the use of bodies as long as we've been on this earth, and we've been figuring out like who we are. We've been fighting through shame. We've been fighting through feeling like we need to sacrifice, have a savior, and all these things. And so I do not think we can't be intersectional, and I 100% believe that people, human beings, should have all the rights in the world to breathe, to eat, to drink, like everything that we need. And then, of course, I believe that our world is abundant. And so I want to be in places and I want to be in spaces that honor that abundance. And of course, as I always do, if you want to work with me, if you think I'm the person to work with you to work through that, I'm going to talk about all the ways you can work with me. So I am definitely here for economic stability, but I'm also here for human beings being human beings, showing up in the world, looking exactly the way they want to. Of course, yeah, you want to, you want to bathe and smell well, and honestly, sometimes that can be subjective because we have different earthy smells or floral smells. We can all disagree over that, but I want human beings to do well. And for some of you, like, well, how are you not pro life? Well, for one thing, viability. Viability is important. And if we are bringing young people into the world and we don't love them and we don't want them to be there, they're gonna feel like even. And I've known of a person who actually got pregnant, got scared, threw her baby in a trash can. And yes, they were funneled through the justice system instead of funneled through like mental health and getting the help they needed to help people understand why this decision happened. I don't know if they were raped or if they were just a pregnant person and they were scared, especially growing up in religious households. They were a Black American person, and I just see that happening as much as we try to counsel people. And that's the other thing. All these so-called crisis pregnancy centers, all these so-called like people that say that they're not wanting this to happen because they're pro-life. Are you ready to step up? Are you ready to be aunts, uncles, caretakers in the community? Are you okay with these children being gender divergent? Are you okay with those children being disabled? And I definitely want us to caution us when you're choosing to have or not have a child. Definitely make sure that you're not being influenced by, oh well, I got pregnant by this person and they're a nice person, but I don't want their skin color to be a certain way, or oh no, this person's gonna have Down syndrome. And it's fair to say, okay, I don't know if I have that capability. That's fair, but do just get all the research, get all your knowledge of anything, and also learn what your parts do and learn how they work, and learn that a ectopic pregnancy may not be available to you depending on where you live because it's considered an abortive procedure. Remember that in many states, miscarriages are now considered abortive procedures, even though you had no bearings on that. So I want us to keep that in mind, and I want us to not be afraid. If we are specifically Black, Brown, Asian, and other melanated folks globally, many of you are refugees. Many of you have moved because of turmoil in your country. And for those of us who were born in the United States of America, we may need to really study what states are allowing what right now and make a move. And if you need help, that is where help getting me or someone, or looking at sites like Indeed, which I just happened to hop over there on there before I got on the live stream today and realized they had a lot of. I'm really impressed of how they are handling Pride Month. That they are showing gender nonconforming people, they are showing Black queer people, making it clear that at least on this site that aggregates jobs, we absolutely believe anybody who wants to work somewhere can work somewhere. So please do not let if we're gonna have extra people in the world, make this a better world for them. Allow them to work at the places. Allow them to do the things. Allow them to have this, and don't fault them for moving somewhere else, leaving your company, leaving your town, leaving your place to get this. And of course, that is nothing new on this channel. There's nothing new on my platform. I think I say the same things every day. But one thing that is new that I did want to highlight, and actually, yeah, all my slides to get a little out of order today. So we're going to get to the part today where we talk about a useful framework. And this is more so for folks figuring out how to plug in. A lot of you who would normally be on the sidelines and saying, lifting us up, cheering us on, funding us, a lot of y'all are feeling some kind of way right now. So a lot of y'all don't know what to do. And then a lot of us are like, gosh, yet another thing. Is there enough time? Should I just check out? Should I just give up? I really like this framework. social change ecosystem map, and I'm going to make it bigger. I'm actually going to shrink my body, and I'm going to just talk here with you. This is by Deepta Iyer, the Building Movement Project. You can go to follow them at Deepta Iyer on Instagram and DVIYER over on Twitter. And some of you are watching this on Twitter, so after you're watching this with me, head over or right click and add it to Twitter and go down the feed. Same thing with Instagram. Same thing if you're over on LinkedIn. And I wanted to put this up on the screen to highlight this. Was basically there's a whole like framework around this. This is just a touch of it, but look up this social change ecosystem map. One of the things lesson I talk about a lot is that not everybody has a purpose and a plan in these movements. We both recognize ourselves as ministers of information, and we disseminate information. And because sometimes I would vent to her and say, "Hey, babe, I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like you've really been boots on the ground." And for those of you who still aren't aware of why, part of the reason why she's been awarded during this Pride Month, EndoCare is one of many organizing initiatives that she has done over the years, both employed with others as well as of her own volition. And so I'm like, I haven't really done the door knocking. I did get a council candidate endorsed a while back. I did that. And so for the longest time, and even right now, sometimes I feel guilty for not being in certain spaces or not showing up in a certain way. But honestly, we need everybody at every dot when it comes to working out social change. If people are curious as to why conservative groups, dark groups are coming together, they have that financial power, but we have people power, and this is how people power is better shared. Oftentimes, many civilizations get to liberation, but when they get to liberation, they don't know how to create a new civilization. Their bodies are trained to do certain things. They're worn out. They're stressed out. So this is a framework that I am going to start thinking about for myself. I see myself, of course, in the storytellers. I see myself, right now providing a little bit of care by showing this to you. And also, I see up there experimenters, and I'm going to allow myself to be more of an experimenter. Now, we see frontline responders, and a lot of us who are going to protests, who are walking people to clinics, who are, even those of us are sending money and that kind of thing. And then something else I like that about the weavers, not just weaving, literally weaving fabric, which I do a lot of that now, and I weave that into my social justice. That particular piece of this social change ecosystem map is defined as people who are weaving movements together. It's been rumored that the EPA lawsuit that's in the Supreme Court right now could result in less air quality regulations. So yet there's something else that's infecting everybody, because we all breathe the air, just like COVID went through the air and we all could or couldn't breathe it, and we've all intercepted it at some point right now. So I want us to take a moment, and if you want to pause this when it's not live, or just take a moment and take a look at this. Once again, Google the social change ecosystem map. Let me see if I can, for those of you who are able to accept links or at least see the links that I post over here on the side, I'm actually going to link to the full website, buildingmovement.org. So you all, and it, this particular article that I'm linking to goes to how all these movements look during this time. So some of you will be able to see this comment here, some of you will not, but buildingmovement.org is where you want to go to get this entire map and learn more about its creator and learn more about how to use it. And definitely reach out to me if you've been using it. I know some of you who are facilitator folks who've probably been using this map. This isn't anything new. It's new to me. Some of you are using this as you do your community conversations. And yes, having these community conversations is extremely valuable right now. So please don't discount that. Is part of your response. But if you're not you can't find yourself on this map and you're still stuck on, and of course I want to shout out Movement Advancement Project, who does so many maps specifically around specific elements of LGBTQIA civil rights. There's also folks that are, I think it's Guttmacher Institute that does it for exactly what states have what regulations around um, abortions, or even reproductive health, and like they keep stats on infant mortality, access to reproductive care, access to even access to things like hysterectomies, like, and actually having the choice whether or not that's how things want to go, or other things that things like, I've got these fibroids, and I'll have, having access to people who have other options besides, oh well, there goes your uterus. So definitely the Movement Advancement Project, building movements right now for those of you who are actively working in the planning spaces. Be thinking about integrating those things. Be thinking about if you are a stateside, and even if you're in provincial and states of Mexico, or different countries on the continent of Africa and Europe, the European Union. Of course, now with Brexit, there's different laws there, at least different ways you can get around. Like, this is definitely a global thing. This definitely isn't just stateside, but we're one of the larger nations, and we're a federated nation of states, and each state has different laws, and many states are protecting and fortifying abortion, others are not. And I want to make it clear right now, before anybody tries to come after me, I'm literally sitting in Maryland. What I am doing right now is legal to do. It is legal for me to encourage folks, if they need to get the health care that they need for their bodies. And likewise, I am happy to advocate for people, specifically disabled people, having more choices than they do even in this state right now. So now, we're getting to the point where I usually try to talk to you about what I'm doing, other than, of course, advocating for these things and being present in these conversations. It is not too late if you want to be part of the Smart Growth America Equity Forum. If you are doing community-based work, cultural displacement work, cultural preservation work, I want you, please submit a application to their forum. If you go over on the Smart Growth America site, there's more details. They've retweeted a tweet I sent out about this. They have information on their page. The workshop is coming up in a couple of weeks, but I know the deadline, and it may have already passed to do the cultural, I haven't been keeping up with my submission deadlines for the workshop, but do register. And if you find out that you can't get that be part of the workshop on the day, July 15th, reach out to me, because this will be the first time I'll be presenting some of my specific cultural presentation work for this particular summit. But you can come and see me. I'll be kind of looking a little bit more like this than I am in my picture, but I adore these pictures so much. I'm gonna look like this forever professionally. So that's one of the things I'm doing this week. And of course I'm online, here and there and everywhere online. And so I wanted to also, as I always do, of course, if you have seen this before, if you know how to work with me, you know how to reach out to me, you know how to find, if you want to give me a few coins to appreciate what I've done for you today, that slide is the tail end of this, so you can skip through it. But I'm going to briefly just tell you how to work with me, how to catch up with me, how to keep up with me, as we come up on 30 minutes on the slide today and come off of this live stream a little early. So I wanted to actually highlight workshops and one-on-one coaching, because for many of you, what I talked about, figuring out what to do with your lives and figuring out where to go and what to do, that is something that is one of my specialties, especially if you share intersectional identities with me. If we share an identity in some way, shape, or form, or multiple identities, I absolutely would love for you to reach out to me. I also have a version of this that's more of you helping craft your story and your voice. So please reach out to me about that. I would love to help you with that in these trying times. Of course, you're working with me. I will stick on my bio. If you have a product or service and you want to advertise to folks that want to that come to this page because I am a Black queer person, I'm a feminist, I'm all the things that I am, I will shout you out right here in this section of the video. This is exactly where I would read your ad, but we can also talk about me reading your ad at the very beginning, kind of before I play my little intro music. Likewise, in the section, I have a similar section to this in the Black Urbanist Weekly. That's also where you live if you advertise with me. So advertisements start at $75 a week if you commit to 4 weeks. You can do the math on that. And honestly, the math on 1 week is not as bad as you might think. So definitely reach out to me if you're interested in advertising on this live stream, on my newsletter, on both. The advertising package as it stands right now covers both. That $75 a week covers this live stream and the newsletter and all the various versions of the newsletter that come out across the internet. Absolutely, I'm here for keynotes and panels. I'm still taking precautions. You may see me on occasion indoors unmasked because I took a picture for 5 minutes. So let's continue to work together. I know we're still in conference season, and absolutely for 23, I'm being optimistic that we're going to continue to get the COVID, the inside thing under control, just like, already monkeypox is like, there's opportunities for that. So please reach out to me. Let's talk about keynotes and panels. Absolutely, just like I'm doing for Smart Growth America, I will absolutely beam into you right here where I'm sitting and beam in and present to you with my smiling face big on the screen. Or I will do what I'm doing here when I did at Capitol Trails back in 2018, stand in front of the podium, stand in front of a picture of me, as I tend to do. And I'm also available to host panels, host presentations, interview you or your leadership on a stage. Yes, those things I will require COVID protocol, like, advanced testing or masks in the room. But I'm here for you and we can make that happen. So please do reach out to me if this is something that you want to do. And likewise with your project teams, please do give me a heads up. I know a lot of times with project teams, we kind of think about people we want to team with. We find the RFP a little late. I was always told when I did this work in full time that if you are finding the RFP, it's a little late for you. You want to be, but it's not too late to at least submit yourself and have that practice. So if you want to have me team with you, if you have that MWB quota, or you just want to show a progressive policy project team and you want me as a subcontractor, I can absolutely subcontract with you right now without having formal DBE. I can absolutely help you with your public engagement. Please do reach out to me. Try to give me enough time. Try to give yourself enough time to fill out your RFP so you're not rushing and you're not picking the wrong folks. But remember, I am available for you for subcontracting. And yeah, here we go. It is a pleasure always to be able to do this. It takes a lot sometimes for me to put myself on camera, to write these newsletters. And I know for many of you, you're living through me vicariously. If that is the case, please consider sending me a little donation, or please consider booking time with me on the calendar for paying my hourly rate and spending some time with me to figure out how this might be a solution for you, because you could also do this very thing and create a platform for yourself, and I think it'll be beneficial. But whoever you are, especially if you are most affected and most restricted by these decisions that are coming down, please find your community, find your people, and get yourself together and ground yourself in whatever you need. So until next time, I'm just going to make this a little bigger and I'm going to play us out. Until next time, I will see you on this